the mayor felt it important to go ahead and adopt Floodplain Ordinance Chapter 19 revisions that incorporated the 100 year and treated them the same. So what will happen now is that to build new or to do an addition more than 1/3 in the 100 or the 500, you'll need to know the base flood elevation at the 500-year flood, even in the 100-year floodplain. And that's new for our industry. We're accustomed to getting elevation certificates and flood insurance based on the 100-year floodplain base flood elevation. But now you're going to need to know the 500-year elevation in the 100. And of course, now you're going to have to find out the 500-year base flood elevation in the 500-year floodplain, which we've never done before. So now realtors are going to have to go out and encourage their clients and almost require their clients to get that information about their floodplain and the base flood elevation so that they can determine what's the long-term impact of that for their home. They might not do anything today. They could be below that base flood elevation, and they're not planning on doing anything, but it will impact both their flood insurance immediately and their ability to remodel, build on, or build new in that location in the very near future. Many of the neighborhoods that were impacted by Harvey, we know that those structures are going to be torn down and they're going to be rebuilt to some standard. If you rebuilt quickly to the current 100-year floodplain, at 1 foot above the 100-year base flood elevation, and then the rules change in 2 years, all of a sudden your flood insurance could triple or quadruple when the new maps come out, costing your homeowner $300, $400, $500 a month for increased flood insurance protection. So that's why it's important in adopting the new standard that we get to the new standard as quickly as possible. It not only will cost a little bit money up front if they do build or remodel more than 1/3, but it will save them money in the long term. And the most important thing, it will keep them from flooding. We know how the water sheds from the west and the north of the city down to the Port of Houston and the Gulf of Mexico. So it's not just what's happening on your lot, it's happening a mile or 2 miles up the road. And it's not all channeled through the bayou. It's channeled through the street system and the grid system and through vacant properties. And so we have a responsibility to protect our homeowners, and our largest single investment is typically our homes. And so this new Chapter 19 revision it's somewhat cumbersome. It's fairly restrictive in those areas because we know where the problems are and we know how to fix it, and this is one way to fix it.
Bill, I love your advertisement. You speak flood. I think that's a wonderful way to present your services. How does a homeowner know about the resources? Where do they go?
Hopefully they have a great real estate agent
well,
who stays
true.
in their life
exactly,
after the sale.
I think the realtor can be a very great resource. But
Absolutely.
it seems so it seems complicated for the average homeowner.
It's very complicated.
If you weren't out there, Bill, being really on the cutting edge of things and telling you just gave a wonderful report to us.
Thank you.
I mean, you're very advanced in your knowledge. How does the average homeowner get the information? What's the resource?
The City of Houston website is better than ever. It's totally been revamped, and they have a ton of information on there. And I would sign up for the newsletters that come from there because you would get new information almost on a weekly basis about how that works.
You mentioned the permitting?
The permitting website and the platting website through the City of Houston Planning Department. You could go there and sign up for that information right there. That would be a great way to get started. And then through the floodplain management, they have a website also where you could go and log in your address, and it will tell you if you're in the 100 or 500 year, and it will, with some accuracy, give you an idea of the difference between the 100 and 500 year base flood elevation. On average throughout the city, it's about a foot difference, but there are many areas of the city where it's between 5 and 6 feet, the difference between the 100 year base flood and the 500 year base flood. And we're talking, with the new regulations, 2 feet above that. So you could have a subdivision or a home and it looks like it meets the code, and the new houses might be by code 4 and 5 feet higher than that.
When does the floodplain ordinance that just passed?
September 1 will be, if you submit a permit after September 1, you'll be subject to the new regulations. If you submitted your permit August 31st, you're going to be grandfathered under the old rules. So if someone really wants to get their project in. But I would caution someone who builds something and not taking in the new regulations. You are impacting, I think, your future ability to get flood insurance and what it costs. So if you're at the federal minimum today, doesn't mean you're going to be at the federal minimum when the new floodplain maps come out.
That's
So they need to
right.
take that
You
into
really
consideration.
have to pay attention. Another thing you mentioned during your presentation was the I45 and how that's going to be reconfigured in the beautiful park. Tell us about that. That's so
North
exciting.
Houston Highway Improvement Project. I can barely say that. But I think it's going to be a transformative portion of our city from I45 at the airport all the way down to 288. It will redefine the landscape of the inner city, rerouting 45 to the north of downtown and along the 59 coordinator by George R. Brown, and placing the interstate where we can underground, and making it iconic where it's above ground, and creating spaces for neighborhoods along the way so that the interstate system is not just for cars to get through our city, but for our citizens to utilize the entire interstate system as a part of their community, reconnecting neighborhoods, connecting people underneath for recreational opportunities, addressing the area adjacent to the interstate. It's a $7 to $10 billion project. TxDOT will fund the nuts and bolts of it, and the private sector in the city will get to participate along the way. We can help with design, and we can make it iconic. There have been perfect examples across the state. In El Paso, where the interstate is reflective of the Mexican-American heritage there. In Corpus Christi, where it's reflective of the coastal pattern. And so, because there have been these incremental changes, the Kyle Warren Deck Park in Dallas, that was done a portion with stimulus money in the Obama administration, gives us examples of areas that we can take and improve here in Houston. And it is this tremendous opportunity to think of the street and grid system not just for cars, but for people, and for people who walk and people who bike, for autonomous cars and for the Uber generation. We need to rethink how all that's going to work. That's right.
Families strolling little
The number one goal is to connect communities and not divide communities.
I love that.